everyone. I'm here with Dr. Nagaraj, Vice Chancellor of Kalaslingam Academy of Research and Education. Hello, sir. The education sector is gradually moving towards the digital age. How is CARE utilizing this change?
Again, I should compliment, I don't know, I should compliment the vision of the management because digitization has started at Kalaslingam even before the actual, the boost for digitization was given by our current Prime Minister, wherein he wanted to have the campuses digitized. The evidence for this is in terms of campus transaction. We are a paperless campus for a very long period. That is because we have built in our own ERP software for any transaction between students and faculty. So that is one major aspect. All our circulars, memos, communications, requests, letters, leaves, you talk across the spectrum of the businesses that is involved between the stakeholders of the university. Everything is done online and it is paperless. We don't believe in writing something and then putting those signatures, seals and taking it forward. We have policies defined, and based on the policies defined, we transact digitally to take those decisions. The escalation also happens hierarchically, HOD to Dean, Dean to Vice Chancellor, and Vice Chancellor to top management, the Chairman or Chancellor. This entire hierarchy is happening digitally. So it has been there for quite some time, and it is in a very, very mature shape because I don't see any glitch over there. We keep adding modules every semester, every month, based on the requirement, and also parallelly augment and enhance the existing modules to make the bring in ease of business in each of these modules. That is one aspect. The second aspect is the payment of fees. Government has been talking about payment of fees and digitizing the payment of fees and making it online. This we have been, again, as I said, because we have a strong student ERP system, the payment of fees was online and is online for quite some time now. So that digitization is also happening. Now this businesses apart, when you talk about the major activity of the faculty in terms of teaching learning, Rahul, I should tell you, we have put in a very, very niche and very, modern infrastructure for video capturing of lectures of faculty. We have created about, say, 70 plus classrooms, which has this facility of video capturing of lectures, where the live lectures of faculty is, we have facility of live capturing of lectures of these faculty. And we have an MOU with an agency or a company called Impartition. This company does a small editing wherever there has been time gap. It tries to, close the time gaps and then make it renderable to the end user. And our students, any student, it could be fast learner or slow learner or medium learner, whatever may be the category, can log in using their user IDs and passwords and call for these lectures whenever they want on campus, on the campus. So it is like, the lectures are all available to the students at any point of time, and they have the access to lectures so that the learning becomes more efficient. Because classroom, yes, in that 50-55 minutes period of time, definitely it depends on the student attention. With 6 hours a day or 7 hours a day, I do not know. It is difficult for anybody to give the utmost attention to the happenings in the classroom. We do have problem in that, but once in a relaxed mood, the student can watch these lectures and hear those lectures and assimilate them. It becomes easier. And this particular facility has another very major, add-on to it in terms of posing questions to the faculty. This also happens online. Once he or she is looking at these lectures online, the students can put their questions to the respective faculty online and get the queries resolved then and there. So it is like, it's a 24/7 sort of system which is working very, very efficiently. campus. So this is another major intervention that has happened in terms of digitizing the campus. So one is the ERP system that we have brought in for all the businesses on campus. It could be student, faculty, parents, it could be anybody, sending SMSs to parents when there is some shortcoming by their board, or trying to explain the excellence that the board has gained. So all this communication happens to the parent body, because sometimes parents may not have an email ID, because my students come from the rural background. So we try to communicate to them, because we have an understanding that 99% of this population has a mobile phone with them. So we try to communicate to the parents through the SMS, telling them that this is the outcome of your board over a period of time. So there also the digitization has been playing a major role. Our website, I think you should have a look at the website. It has a galore of information. And the recent addition to the digitization is the addition of virtual laboratories. This COVID pandemic, even though we call it a pandemic, it is creating havoc around the world, and it's creating havoc in our own country. We were locked down for almost 3 months. Our GDPs went down, and the amount of pain and panic it has created, it is still going on, and we do not know how long it is going to go. Digitization has again played a major role for us to mitigate the problems arising out of Corona. Because once we closed down on March 17th, based on a government order or a government circular, that universities stop their businesses physically, we went into the lockdown mode. We have a galore of circulars after that, being sent to the students and the faculty in terms of making the business look as it used to be when we used to meet them physically. So it could be in terms of online classes to the students, it could be in terms of having online laboratories, and this is where I spoke about virtual laboratories to students. So we are in the process of digitizing the learning, the classroom teaching, the PPTs, the video lectures, the short films. Along with that, we have augmented the teaching with the concept of virtual lab. We would have used virtual labs of various top-notch universities. Along with that, I am very proud to tell you, Rahul, is that we have created our own virtual laboratories also in the process. So that is available on our website, and it is accessible by anybody. It is not that it is accessible. Once it is on the website, it is accessible to the public. It could not only student from Kalaslingam could access it. It could be accessed by anybody. So it is a service to society in terms of enhancing the knowledge base of the university. That is the other intervention that we have done. As I said, during this COVID period, we conducted the classes very efficiently, and then ensured that the syllabus was completed, both theory as well as practical. And we conducted online examinations for the students. Again, another digital intervention. In terms of, we formulated the multiple choice questions. I must appreciate my faculty in terms of the voluminous question bank that was developed for the university. It goes into lakhs of questions. I cannot give you the right number. I heard and understand it from our controller of examinations that we have created a repository of more than 4 lakh MCQs, more than 4 lakh multiple choice questions across the various branches of engineering, arts, science, commerce, business management, agri, horticulture, and architecture. So across these various 10 schools, we have created a repository of more than 4 lakh questions. This is a very, very enormous resource which has been built over a very short period of time. And beyond that, most of the businesses that has happened, or when I call business, it is the acts that we have performed during this COVID period, from March till date, has all been in digital mode. And if we didn't have a mature infrastructure to support us, to render it to the stakeholders, definitely it wouldn't have been possible to us. So the vision again of the management in digitizing the processes, in digitizing the various interactions between the various stakeholders in the university has really helped us in making it. It looked very easy for us when we tried to bring in all the changes from physical to virtual, and digitization has really helped us in a very, very big way.
Thank you, sir. Now, can you please shed some light on the placement and training cell of CARE? What are the steps taken by the cell to ensure smooth placement drive for students? What are some of the top companies that recruit students from CARE?
This is my very pet question, Rahul. You should tell that. As I always am of the opinion that any graduation must lead to a gainful employment. Otherwise, there is no. People don't come into, at least in our country, a huge, large country. As I said, with the demography across the country, wherein I have a 40-50 crore population who are in the employable age. That's why India is called as the young country. The task of, the onus of placing each and every student towards a gainful employment should be the, the major task of any administrator or any head of the institute or any head of the university. The placement and training department at CARE, we call it as the Department of Corporate Relations. We don't call it exactly as placement and training, we call it as Department of Corporate Relations. One of the activities that the Corporate Relations Department performs is placement and training also. As I said, we don't train the student only in the theoretical aspects or in the subject wise aspects of the students, but also look towards the holistic development of the student in terms of all possible mechanisms available to us. And as I said, we don't want to create an employee for a state or a district or a country, but we want to make our students global employees. Having this as motto, the task for the Corporate Relations Office of Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education is very clear cut. They said we are giving you technically trained students who have the know-how of the specific avenues of subjects that they are graduating. The job of the placement and training department or the corporate relations department is to go beyond that and train these students in multiple skill sets. It could be the basic skill set, as we all understand, Rahul, is that because most of my students, and it could be true for the rest of the country also, India is predominantly a country of villages. It's an agrarian economy. So most of the village students in any of the universities come from rural background, and English is not our mother. So that is again another major problem, because most of the other countries, Western countries or other countries, including China for that matter, the medium of instruction is their local language. It could be Chinese, it could be German, it could be French, whatever, it could be Spanish, Japanese. But India is one unique system wherein our medium of instruction is English, and English is not our mother. So students definitely have problem in understanding. See, when we tell something in our mother tongue, it is very, very easy to understand. But when it comes to trying to learn something using a language which is not ours, it becomes a bit difficult. So the first task for the Department of Corporate Relations is to hone the skills of the students in languages. It is not only English. As I said, we look towards making our students global employees. We have multiple avenues for students to get trained in German, in French, in Japanese. It could be any of those foreign languages. We want the demand, and then we would create the infrastructure needed to train the students in those languages. But the basic motto is to train them in good English, could be written, spoken, communicating with big vocabulary data with them. So that is the first task. The next is the soft skills of the students. It is English is one aspect. Then the soft skills, the communication, the way you dress, the way you behave in public, your personality. We call it as, instead of calling it as personality development programs, we call it as soft skills, for which we have MOU with very reputed agencies who have been doing this across the country in multiple top-notch universities. We are trying to offer this training to the students, and soft skills is part of our curriculum. We have made it a credit course so that student takes it with interest. So along with English, and we have English also as a credit course, because only when a credit is attached to a course, the student interest is ultimate there. So along with this English and soft skills, we have domain-specific training given to students. The domain-specific is, we have an MOU with, for example, we have an MOU with SAP Labs to train our students in the various verticals of SAP. It could be supply chain, it could be ABAP, it could be management, it could be any of the verticals that the SAP does. We have signed an MOU with SAP, and the cost of the certification has been brought down drastically, almost about 20 times through this MOU, because if the student is undertaking this SAP training outside Kalasalingam, he or she will end up paying 3 to 3.5 lakhs for a SAP certification. But being a student of Kalasalingam, he pays only 14,770 rupees. This is very, very important that we are giving such interventions to the students in terms of training them technically. So SAP was one example. Similar examples are there. We have a tie-up with National Instruments to train the students from the circuit branches under the NI CLAD certification. We have an MOU with Bosch. We have MOU with Toffee, or lots of industries are there in the process, which hone the skills and make the students industry ready. Along with your graduation, your soft skills, knowledge in English, and also the technical certification. Beyond this, beyond the technical certifications, you do have another major intervention by the corporate relations department is company-specific training. Whenever there is a recruiter visiting the campus, we see the type of skill sets the recruiter looks for while he or she is coming to recruit our students. So once that we know that, we go back, the timetable is already set. We said that on a specific day, a recruiter is going to visit your campus. You come back and you have a specific training to our students in terms of industry-specific training also. So this is another add-on, another augmentation for the placement training of our students. Beyond this, we make them undergo a lot of webinars, lot of workshops, seminars, job-oriented courses. Go through the the skill set tests. Like for example, you have agencies similar to CoCubes or somebody who tests the strength of the students in terms of their coding capabilities, in terms of their programming capabilities, in terms of their technical know-how, and rank them at various levels and tell them these are the gaps of the students and this is the training need of the students. So once that training need is known by us, we try to fill the gap, plug the gap by offering those training to the students. It could be training in Java, it could be training in C programming, it could be anything for that matter. I keep talking about software because the software companies are the major employers. We give a lot of importance to core industries also. There is a separate initiative for bringing in core companies into the campus. For example, Mercedes is in There was a Mercedes recruitment very recently. So along with the software companies, we try to put in a lot of efforts towards getting the core industry also into the campus, because we have a large chunk of civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, biotech engineers who may not be looking for a software sort of a position, and they would be very happy if we give them avenues in the area of their expertise. So therefore, we put in a lot of effort there, introducing these companies to our students, and whatever is the gap again, because the jobs available in core companies is always very small, and our students need to compete with institutions maybe higher ranked, or maybe students who are with better acumen, but still we try to bridge the gap and try to plug that gap and make our students at par with those students, so that we could get core companies also coming back and recruiting our students.
Thank you, sir. Now, as I was researching the institute's official website, I noticed that CARE has a very cordial relationship with international universities. How does this benefit the students?
To be precise, we have about 250 MOUs with various national and international level bodies and agencies, all reputed bodies. And we have most of these MOUs are active in terms of faculty exchanges, in terms of student exchange, in terms of students going on pursuing a semester abroad program, in terms of joint research collaborations. Like my faculty collaborate with a foreign university faculty, and they jointly publish a paper. So that is in terms of joint collaboration in research, and also applying for the joint calls. Like there is an Indo-US call, there is the Indo-Japan call, the Indo-French call, you have Indo-Spanish. There are multiple such calls, Indo-UK, multiple such calls happening around the year. And only when you have those collaborations with the universities, we'll be able to apply for those collaborative grants jointly with these universities. So as I said, the first aspect is student aspect, wherein we have a semester abroad program with the universities wherever we have an MOU. The second is the faculty level interaction in terms of joint publications with the faculty of the other universities, foreign universities. And the third aspect is applying for research grants, to the joint research grants for the programs which are given by the two governments put together. Leaving that apart, these MOUs also help us in getting those experts, teaching our students a one-credit course, or teaching our students, because in this COVID period, when everything became online, accessing somebody from a city in Australia, or accessing somebody from a city in Los Angeles, city in US, the remotest corners of the world was possible because they didn't travel. Their time only, whatever we wanted from them was only their time, and the time we wanted from them also for a couple of hours. Definitely any academician, any researcher would be very happy to spare that time and give that knowledge to the students. So these MOUs have very successfully helped us in enhancing our network, in enhancing our the people we know across the globe, so that the brand Kalasalingam is known to people across the world. So that is another major thing that I feel we have achieved through these MOUs. And my personal opinion is these MOUs definitely shall be driven by individuals, because every MOU there will be an owner, and the owner of the MOU wants the MOU to flourish and wants to see to it that all the aspects of the MOU is taken care of in whatever way possible. So the efforts are put by the owner of these MOUs in such a way that he he or she would support the student abroad program or support joint collaboration in terms of paper publication, joint publication, and also in research.
Define your roles and responsibilities towards the college and the students in Kalaslingam Academy of Research and Education.
See, I see my role basically as a facilitator rather than as an administrator. My job is, to draw the goals out of the vision. And once I draw the goals out of the vision, I have the benchmarks set for the university. It's a very democratic sort of setup. You discuss it in the various forums. It could be the staff council meeting. It could be in terms of the deans and directors meeting, whatever is the forum, or maybe board of management, the academic councils, wherever I am there, the discussion does happen, and we take a decision jointly. So once that decision is taken and all of us are on the same page with respect to what we need to achieve for our university, my job becomes a job of a facilitator. Because when something has to be done, people approach me in terms of telling that, sir, this was the task assigned to us, and this is what we need to achieve the task. It could be in terms of a policy intervention, or it could be in terms of any sort of intervention. It comes to me, and my job is to remove those bottlenecks, make that thing possible, and take it to the next level, so that the faculty or the stakeholder can achieve whatever is their stated goal. So I see my role in the university as a facilitator and as a person who is available round the clock to them, and as a person available to them whenever they are in distress, to look towards the Vice Chancellor to resolve the issues they have. And then, all this is aiming towards the set goals. So once, as I said, your goals are drawn out of the vision and you have set goals, your benchmark, what is needed for the university at a given point of time, I see that then next sky is the limit, and you would like to achieve whatever is possible. And another role, Rahul, I would like to tell you is any system is not efficient without a feedback. Feedback must keep coming to the top management continuously. It could be feedback from students, it could be feedback from parents, it could be feedback from employers, faculty, deans, heads of the departments, the management feedback. Everything will come into the Vice Chancellor's domain. And my job is to, make my system robust, because I see myself as a controller of a control system, and the job of the controller is to make the system work with utmost efficiency and trying to mitigate the faults which comes in the process. So, and also keep adapting to the changes, and wherever there are changes, give those guidelines, give those advices to people, so that the system output is ensured and the system works with utmost efficiency. So I need, my job is a facilitator, as well as my job is a controller, wherein I take in all the inputs from various stakeholders and try to push my engine forward so that it runs at a specific speed, at a specific efficiency, fuel efficiency, and reaches the destination at a specific period of time. So if I ensure all that happening simultaneously, then it means that I have done my job as efficiently as possible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, when you first came to Kalaslingam Academy of Research and Education, what was your vision for the institution? Now, how do you strategize about the key programs and plans for the administration of your school?
I came into the university in 2018, so it is almost 2 years since I have been at Karay. When I came into Karay, my only The reckoner about CARE was the university's website. I looked into the various aspects of the website, could be in terms of the programs offered by the university, the UG, PG, and masters, whatever programs offered by the university, the research strength of the university, and also the various statistics that is put on any website of any educational institution. So I looked at all these things and then jotted out a small plan. And during my selection, I had proposed a vision plan for CARE. And the vision plan for CARE were across all those major verticals that any educational institute must look towards to grow and excel to the next level. This vision plan was very much appreciated by the top management, and after I was selected and brought into the system, I made a similar presentation, but now not as a vision plan but as a strategic plan. I converted the vision plan to strategic plan, and because vision plan is you're not into the system still, you say this is my vision for the university if I come to the university, and once I am in the university, I strategize the vision and bring it as a strategic plan to the university, and the strategic plan was presented to the board of management. It was very much appreciated, accepted in true letter and spirit, and whatever freedom and independence and autonomy is needed in achieving the stated goals in the strategic plan was given to me in true letter and spirit. So with that, as I said, we have made huge jumps. I said, when I took over the university, our NIRF ranking was 96. Today we are at 60. Now this jump of about 30 positions from 96 to 60, it hasn't happened just like that. Basically, only if you have improved across the spectrum of education, as I have been pointing out, to be teaching, learning, research, extension, co-curricular, placement. You put in all these things together and you are trying to grow and reach towards this level of excellence. The jump from 96 to 60, I see as the evidence for what good work we have been doing. It is not an individual effort. I don't see it as an individual effort at all. As I said in my previous answer, I just work as a facilitator and sometimes as controller. So controller is basically to tweak the system and put it back on track, and facilitator is support the system and help the system to function the way it has to function. So by doing these two things for the university, we are able to bring the university amongst the top-notch universities of the country. As I said, in the university category, we were 100 and above. We have brought in below 100 and we are 72nd. So this is also an index that we have been performing exemplarily well when it comes to the performance of the university. It doesn't end here, Rahul, because it goes on, and we always say sky is the limit, and we don't know where the sky is. It always, you set a benchmark here, the next benchmark is there, the next benchmark is there. It goes on till the level you can stretch yourself, and that is where you set your benchmarks and try to keep excelling in reaching those benchmarks. And as we stride upwards, we know the gradient is much tougher for us to scale. But with the tougher gradient, the challenges posed by the system shall also be tougher. But we have put in a system in such a way that it can cater to any such difficult situations. It can cater to any such challenges and still keep moving with whatever prescribed efficiencies that we want the system to perform. So this has been happening. It's a continuous system. It is a closed loop system. It is a continuous system. And job of the controller is to, as I said, keep redefining the parameters, keep redefining the inputs, keep redefining what should be the expected outputs, and keep the system running and running at the topmost efficiency it can. So this is how I see it. And as I said, we gave a strategic plan to the university, and the strategic plan I have been telling right from the beginning. We have earmarked a few things as short-term goals that we intend to achieve within the couple of years down the line, and the long-term goals which we intend to achieve in the next 3 years, that is from year 3, 4, and 5. What is that we intend to achieve? It is a 5-year strategic plan, and I am very happy to tell you that whatever we had intended to do in the strategic plan, we have achieved that, and we have achieved beyond that also, because we had set a benchmark there. But I must tell you, with the cooperation, help, and support of everybody, it is the management, it is the stakeholders, students, faculty, all the administrative setup within the university, we had set a benchmark here. I must tell, we have scaled beyond the benchmark that we had set for which we had set for ourselves also, which means we are outperforming. And with the outperformance, quite obviously, the next level of benchmark is going to move up, and we are ready for that, and we are ready to face it. I should tell, this COVID scenario was one such experience wherein we were able to demonstrate to ourselves, not forget demonstrating to the external world, but demonstrate to ourselves that we can excel during panic situations. And we have the type of training, we have the type of resource, and we have the type of dedicated workforce which is well trained to raise up to the occasion and work with work par excellence during pandemic situations like this.
Thank you, sir. Now, what do you think should be the Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education's top priority over the next 10 years?
Rahul, the priorities for the university for the next 3 years has already been defined, and we are working towards that. That is in terms of excellence in teaching learning, excellence in research, excellence in placements, excellence in all the outreach activities, whatever it could be. So for that, the various levels are set, based on which the university's levels also changes nationally as well as internationally. So that is one aspect. Basically, I as an educator and as an educator administrator want any university to come closer to the society. When we say closer to the society, it is bring in a synergy between the environment surrounding you and also, see, you may be doing something as a standalone system, which may not be, which may be of no help to the society surrounding you. Rahul, that Kalasalingam University is situated in a remote aspirational district called as Virudhunagar in the state of Tamil Nadu, down south. Is one of the, it's called as aspirational districts because there are a lot of things which this district has to achieve when it is compared with a developed district like maybe a Salem or a Coimbatore. It needs a lot of changes in its demography when it is compared with developed districts. So we have a role carved for ourselves in being housed in such a backward environment. And students, and most of my students, at least 30 to 40% of my students are first graduates. That means they are the students who are from families who are coming into a higher educational system for the first time, wherein his parent or maybe the lineage down the line wouldn't have known what higher education actually means, what a professional degree actually means. So when I have such large number of students coming from the various rural environs of the state of Tamil Nadu, my goal is that I should make my university as close to the society as possible. It is not only imparting quality education to the students and making and churning out very good graduates with very good attributes. It is With that task apart, I would also become responsible to the society in terms of giving back to the society. And when I say giving back to the society, in terms of building a synergy between the educational institution and the needs of the society. This is where I see how the graduates from my university would play a role in the overall upliftment of the district, as well as when it comes to the performance of the people of this district. It should go up. It could be in terms of farm incomes. It could be in terms of the setting up of industries. It could be in terms of giving clean water, giving whatever, maybe the interventions that could happen through an educational institution. I would like my university to achieve all that. And in terms of ranking, I feel even though I appreciate the rankings and I know that these rankings help us in setting those benchmarks, I see these rankings as notional. It is like you are there, and then again you need to leap up. Yes, I would tell now I am in the top 100. I am 60th now. Next year I would like to come below 50. The next year I would like to go below 30, and I would like to be top 10. So you keep on scaling up. So I can very easily tell that in the next 10 years down the line, I would like to see my university in the top 20 universities of the country, and maybe in the top 200 or 300 universities in the world. So that could be my vision for the next 10 years. But to achieve that, what I need to do as an educational institute becomes very, very important. It is not only carrying on the functions currently that we are doing at a much efficient and at a much faster pace, but along with that, I would like to be a responsible university when it comes to my responsibilities towards society and the environs that is surrounding me. This is what I look towards the grand plan for CARE 5 years or 10 years down the line.
Thank you, sir. Now for the final question. Any message that you would like to share with the upcoming youth and the aspiring students?
Youth are the the asset for the country. I see them as any family. The children are their assets. A student studying for about 20 years, 21 years, graduating out, I see them as investment from parents. Something you have invested for 20 years, and 20 years of investment is a very, very big investment, Rahul, in terms of intellectual investment. So when it is true for the family, it is true for the country. We see this youth, I see this demography of this country, wherein you have the young population. I see this, the school-going population. If you look at the age group of 8 to maybe about 2021, we have about 30 crore people. So this is a very large number. It is more than populations of a few European countries. So when you have such a large chunk of young citizens coming into the higher educational system, my only suggestion to them, I don't advise them, my only suggestion to them is there is no shortcut. People have to work hard to reach what they intend to reach in a stipulated period of time. And I always am of the opinion that don't leave any stone unturned in your process of going towards your set goals. A graduate or an undergraduate setting goals and telling this is what I intend to do, please don't look for shortcuts. Please always, enjoy your stay when you are learning, because you won't get back those 3 years or 4 years looking back. So when you are there on the run, when you are there in the system, make ample use of the opportunities that is being provided to you, because these are coming, because there are a lot of other deprived class also in this country, because you are the most fortunate one because you are in a system which is trying to take care of you. But when you look at the country as a whole, there are a lot of people who are still, deprived of, not as fortunate as you to get into a system like this. So when you have been given these options, given these opportunities, my only suggestion to this younger generation is that there is no shortcuts. There is no shortcuts. Please make ample use of the opportunities and facilities that is given to you. Always think about your parents in the process, because they are your role models. I see your parents as your role models, and then try to build your career beyond that. So keep excelling, and this may be very, very philosophical. When you say keep excelling, it is not. It's not very easy. But once we have a goal set and we plan ourselves, all of us have been given. God has given all of us with similar intelligence and similar opportunities being provided to all of us. Let us make ample use of these things, and whichever background we come from, let us try to show to ourselves that yes, we have the acumen, we have the energy to excel in whatever we intend to do, and that is possible only through hard work, and only through hard work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time and also for your wise words. Thank you so much.